Do we have this disqualified? But how do you spell that? Man, what do we have? Can we have... Why should this be so hard? Disc... How fuck do you get news from Formula 1? Just on winner, Formula 2 winner, Saudi. Man, this... Yeah, man, this was so hard to find out. Yeah, let's see, can I do this in an easy way? Let's see, is that... Yeah, okay, here we have Saudi Arabia. Yeah, Saudi Arabia Formula 2 sprint race winner Rizov Show and his Trident team have been disqualified for technical breach, giving victory for Danny Sauger. So the Norwegian won. Isn't that nice? Okay, and then did something more happen in Formula 2? No, just 8, I think, 8 points. So Bortoleto have a not a nice race. Antonelli had a more nice race. Oh, I think Colapinto and O'Sullivan did not start a race, almost. They had problem when they tried to start. And who more? And Antonelli crashed, not crashed, but they I think they had a contact, so their wing flew off, eller some part of it. And then let's see, Martins, did they... Man, I don't know his last name. Fuck. Last name. Yeah, last name. Do we have a M here? I feel like it's... Okay, someone that are in the... Let's see. art. Do we have an art here? No. To see less. I want to see more. Well, either way. Yeah, there's something problems, but the more fun stuff. Formula 1. I was hoping for Leclerc to be P1. He isn't. He's at least P2. And Max Verstappen, like always. Oh my god. Is P1. Sergio Perez, P3. Fernando. Succeeded with a P4 within Aston Martin. And this is the most beautiful thing you can ever see. Mclaren above Mercedes. And also Hamilton almost got out qualified by Oliver Bearman. That would have been so nice as witness. So maybe the race pace or even worse, hopefully. Yuki Tsunoda succeeded to be better than Daniel Ricciardo. And Lance Stroll is, wow, he's so good. Alexander Albon, like always, is up there. And then, yeah. Everything is a price where people are accept that Alpine is down here. It's so... Man, that's sad. Oh, in 15 hours is the race. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's time for some more reaction on let's see. This must be the right. Yes, and we have P1 as always. Let's see our reaction to Saudi Arabia GP qualifying. And we will be... Well, this will not be so long stream, so it will be mostly fixing with the torches and lanterns. And here we have the old emeralds to pay with. But let's see what is the reaction.
Our reaction to qualifying for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We are here today to reflect on qualifying for the second round of the season. Yes, it was indeed your boy Tommy, Max Verstappen, being relentless and trying really hard and doing all of his homework and getting pole position by quite a large margin in the, I guess, the general conversation of Formula One qualifying. This is a big margin, 3/10. But we had lots of other interesting talking points up and down the grid, so it definitely made it still an interesting quality to watch.
Indeed, the fight for P2 was once again epic. I feel like it's going to be another one of those.
Wait, what? What was epic with that? No, I didn't feel epicness about that. don't know, for me it felt just okay. Who would be P2, Sergio, Perez or Mclaren? But okay, sure.
Seasons potentially where we're like, imagine if Max wasn't there, we'd have a 3-car battle for pole and 3-car battles for the win and all this kind of stuff. But Max is just unstoppable right now.
Now, before we dive into qualifying, there's a shout out to our Patreon where you can get access to our private Discord, which has an amazing community.
Yeah,
Plus,
sure.
you can also get bonus episodes, ad-free listening. We've also released an episode
Ad-free?
about the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix
Where's
back in
that?
2021 in our Short View Back to the Past series. And we'd love for you to check that out. You also get early access to our P1 live show tickets and all kinds of other lovely benefits. So go and check that out. It'll be a link in the description all over our link tree and all that good stuff. Right, let's start with Q1 then, shall we? Although, really,
No, it
we
was
sort of had a
Q2.
lot of news before Q1, but we're talking about qualifying, so let's talk about the star of the show, which was, of
Also,
course...
I think I found out that maybe. Let's see. This block should be here. That this block should be here. I tried to review the footage and it looked like, oh wait, the block was falling down, so this can't be there. I think here, because this diorite was falling, and this was diorite, and this was also diorite. So hopefully I've found the right.
course, Oliver Behrman, who was replacing Carlos Sainz.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to say. Carlos Sainz. He was sick before he arrived, and he seems like have got the same problem as Albon had. So he is not feeling right.
Who we wish a speedy recovery. I've heard or read that he's already had his surgery and he's now resting up, ready to hopefully, I guess, come back, fingers crossed, for Australia. But that has opened up a massive opportunity for a young driver, which we don't get to see all too often in Formula One these days, because apparently drivers don't change teams or leave the sport anymore, according to last year into this year. But Ollie Behrman, an 18-year-old Brit in a Ferrari, making his debut with only one practice session under his belt, being flown into qualifying around one of the most
only one practice, then qualifying, and almost qualifying out Lewis Hamilton. Man, someone is really washed this year.
daunting circuits on the calendar.
What a dream debut. 18 years old, driving for Ferrari. I mean, this is why I'm not a Formula One driver, and he will have that mentality of, you know, wanting to achieve more. But whatever happens in his career, he has driven for Ferrari. Like, that is an incredible thing to happen even now, and he's just 18 years old. It's incredible.
When you say it like that, that's pretty awesome. So maybe they'll call me up next time. But yes, Ollie Behrman, of course, stepping in. You say dream. I don't think it's a dream to have to negotiate 27 turns of the Jeddah Corniche circuit as your first outing in the 2024 Ferrari Formula One car, but it's definitely close to being a dream, I would say. And
No! Skip the ad, please.
Ollie as well, I think, showing his mentality that is not like ours, by apologising when he got 11th and looking like he was genuinely quite disappointed with not making it through to Q3. But he was only, I think...
Oh man, he could have out qualifying Lewis Hamilton. Not even getting to Q3, out qualifying Lewis Hamilton. That would be amazing.
6 tenths off. in Q2 and he was knocked out. Like, that's how close it was between Verstappen at the top, I think, with a 28.0, and then Ollie Behrman did a 28.6 and got knocked out.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a 28.6. Yeah, very, very close indeed. It was so close to pipping Hamilton as well. Like, that would have been
would be so fun.
Even more unbelievable story than it already is.
We've skipped ahead, but who cares? Let's talk about Q1 now. The chronology is all over the place, but who cares? Out in this session was Bottas, Ocon, Gasly, Sargent, and Zhou, with no time set. I guess Alpine showcasing it was not a one-off. They are genuinely washed. Yeah, I'd still say that is a big story to talk about. They were 3/10 off even being close to making it through to Q2. So it's not like they missed out by half a tenth or something like that. They were still probably the worst team, or collectively, yes, the worst team.
They are the worst team. There's a driver in there that's making them not look the back of the grid, but they are the worst team in terms of pace, definitely. So far off. I mean
that's
if you'd have said that they'd be 3/10 off Valtteri Bottas in a Sauber and 4/10 off a Haas. Insane.
And it shows as well that it is the car, because Ocon and Gasly were 0.004 of a second separated, so they were both
they're
trying
getting
to get
everything
the most
out
they
of it.
can. Yeah, exactly. And they're no slouches either, those two drivers. So very disappointing for Alpine. Question from Ross Bella 16: Should Behrman replace Logan or K-Mag on the grid?
Yes.
Well, look, we're not going to get into replacements just yet.
He should,
because K-Mag's done okay these first couple of races.
Mick Schumacher was also okay, if you ask me.
I will say, like, he's
Maybe
done all right. But yes, I think Ollie Behrman, through his practice sessions where he's turned up previously and done really, really well in the Haas, but then now as well, to have all of that pressure on your shoulders of driving for Ferrari, as we've mentioned, and to stick it 11th on the grid. Let's come on. Let's move this up. Let's move this a bit quicker, because he's not going to get many more. Well, he's not going to get any more opportunities apart from this weekend to drive in a Ferrari anytime soon. So he is showcasing, if he has a good race as well, that he's ready for the call-up.
And I hope
it's very good. I think it's unfair to mention K-Mag's name at the moment because he's doing an all right job. Of course, last year,
Wow, he's doing all right. Logan Sargent is doing all right. Lance Stroll is doing all right. Okay.
He wasn't particularly great, but so far K-Mag's had a good season. Logan Sargent, on the other hand, though, it's not had the best start to the year. It almost seems like he's continued where he left off. Yeah, it's not looking good for Logan so far. I really did think he'd have a better year, but then that's what happens when Matt Gallagher predicts your biggest flop, eh?
Whoops. But hey, he might have a great race. We will have to wait and see. Of course, it was a shame for Zhou to not manage to get a time, because that team were working so hard to fix the car that he, of course, after having that crash in FP3, caused, and he must have missed by a few seconds, because they got him out the pits with about 1 minute 45
to the team.
Yeah, not that they would have got through anyway, because Bottas showed that there wasn't exactly much pace in the car anyway, and he's only a few places behind his teammate. But a bit gutting for Zhou for sure.
Wasted time for the mechanics.
And that pretty much sums up Q1 stories, really. Let's go to Q2 now then, and of course we have mentioned it.
The beautiful moment when Hamilton almost got out qualified by Beerman. What is more of his name? Beer. Where do we have him? Where is the beer? Why is this so difficult to find out? Please. Was this the chicken that was walking around like a... Man, I thought this was a cat. But where is... Oliver Bearman. Holy shit. Okay, now we can go back to the video.
Ollie Bearman misses out by 0.03 seconds.
To who?
Making it through to Q3 and would have knocked out Lewis Hamilton of
He's so washed.
all people, and that would have rivaled a story similar to when Lawson knocked out Verstappen, wasn't it? Really, when he came in at Singapore. But still, an incredibly great performance from Ollie. So out in Q2, I forgot to say this at the beginning, was Bearman, Magnussen, Ricciardo, Albon and Hulkenberg. Disappointing for Hulk. I think almost to the second I had said on our Twitch live stream that Hulkenberg was 100% going to make it through to Q3 and was showing some really good pace, and then his car turned off. So disappointing for Nico, because I genuinely think he would have knocked out Hamilton. If you actually look at that he could have been the one to push Hamilton out. But alas, his car didn't work. His pace was looking great, so I'm still hopeful that Nico can do something good in the race, because the Haas does look better, at least from Bahrain, and the evidence we have there that they have better race pace and the tyres aren't chewed up as much. But yeah, it was a shame for Nico.
It was indeed. He just needs to make sure he doesn't plough into someone at turn one. Normally, it's the kind of amazing quality performance that we see from Hulkenberg and he drops back, but despite having that problem, he's only right behind his teammate on the grid in terms of where they line up. So,
next question from the F1 Losophy: is Ricciardo really washed?
Yes.
Getting beat by Tsunoda by...
Oh, Ricardo, I thought you were talking about Lewis Hamilton or Kevin Magnussen, but okay, Ricardo.
for 5/10 is honestly a joke. Wow, not pulling any punches. But yeah, Tsunoda's absolutely schooled Daniel Ricciardo this weekend. And this is not what Danny Rick needs or wants if he has any ambitions to move to a bigger sister team. And it's probably a mixture. Danny Rick not performing very well. Yuki Tsunoda having an amazing performance. I don't want to just pin it just on Daniel. I think Yuki's done a great job, and that needs to be commended as well. Because getting that RB into that top 5 team bracket is no mean feat.
it is only the second race, but yeah, Daniel Ricciardo being this far off Tsunoda is a big surprise. It's kind of no better than De Vries was at the moment. But Ricciardo has shown last year, towards the end of last year, that he was on pace with Tsunoda and would beat him, and he got that amazing result in Mexico. That being said, not had the greatest start to the year, and if he keeps putting in performances like this, he's got absolutely no hope of Red Bull, especially the fact that Sergio Perez is, he's behind Max, but he's doing what he needs to do in just sort of being there or thereabouts, finishing the race second, qualified third again.
Okay, Q3 then, and it was Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Alonso, Piastri, Norris, Russell, Hamilton, Tsunoda and Stroll at your top 10. Question from Dr382: is Fernando on for a podium, or are the Red Bulls and Charles too quick?
Experterna är lyriska över Lilo Casino som får toppbetyg bland Sveriges största jämförelsesajter.
I cannot see the Alonso one-lap pace translating into race pace. If Bahrain is anything to go by, I feel as though he's going to have a job on his hands to stay in P4. You've got the 2 McLarens that have been going very quietly about their business this weekend. P5 and P6, which I think is a great result for McLaren. And they are usually, they were quite good in the race last week. They were quicker than the Aston Martin last week in Bahrain. So I would have to say that, Alonso's going to be driving on his mirrors, but it is also Alonso, so if he gets a great start, he'll probably be leading into turn 1. So, but I think it will be difficult for him to score a podium for sure.
It will be. It seemed surprising how quick they were in qualifying. Then
It's just surprising that Lewis Hamilton is washed and Mercedes is also bad. Actually, no.
Again, last race, Alonso did a great job in qualifying, probably over-delivered where that car should be. I don't think Aston Martin are anywhere near a position to be sort of like fourth or the second or third best team.
Another big talking point has to be Mercedes. They line up 7th and 8th, Russell ahead of Hamilton. People saying Hamilton really slow. He ended up being only a 10th and a half off Russell, and I think, again, Bahrain, we would jump into conclusions. Well, not we, people were about, Hamilton was ninth, I think, wasn't he? And George was third, and that
yeah.
was actually a couple of tenths as well. Hamilton's clearly lacking some confidence in this car. There's no doubt about it. Mercedes are nearly a second off Verstappen. They're falling back, if anything.
I predicted him biggest flop because I personally don't think he's been all that great at this track. Part of it is the fact that he does start the season slow, and ever since Saudi became one of the earlier races, he's not gone too well there. So he's just getting more dialed into the car, and as soon as he gets on top of it, it wouldn't surprise me that he would beat Russell. And we know that Hamilton is a lot better in the races anyway. You look at the last race with George starting third, Hamilton starting ninth, and he still ended up right near George at the end, despite a broken seat and their car.
Yeah, Lance Stroll ended up near Alonso. Yeah. Perez ended up near Max Verstappen. Yeah.
Our problems, so don't write him off just yet.
And also a big shout out to Charles Leclerc. 7 front row starts in a row for that man. An absolute beast
really
in qualifying. And 5 straight Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc front rows, which is also quite.
That's got to be some
stat,
kind of record. That's got to be a record for 2 people that aren't in the same team.
It's wild. And when you look back at these seasons on paper, you go, oh well, Max didn't. It wasn't Red Bull dominating. It wasn't that much of a domination. Charles Leclerc's up there. But I'm just glad he didn't get pole, because we don't want any more of that record being extended. So yeah,
the record's still on.
Yep, cool. And that is it. Thank you, everybody. Lots of love. See you soon. And we'll be raving about tomorrow's incredible race.
Until Leclerc and Max stop.
Yeah.
Bye!
Come on, Logie.
Driving.
P1.
Yeah. Copion and believers on Mercedes. Like always. Then we have some actually interesting takes by Peter Windsor. 2024 F1 Saudi Arabian GP qualifying analysis by Peter Windsor, and he will actually analyze it.
Being a bit optimistic, a bit ambitious yesterday when I said that on this...
Wait.
Yes, I was probably being a bit optimistic, a bit ambitious yesterday when I said that on this sort of circuit, maybe the pole would be a little bit more closely fought than normal. But no, Red Bull did exactly what they usually do, which is get the car perfect for Saturday, keep the top speed advantage, get the car balanced, give Max the confidence he needs on the difficult high-speed corners, change the direction here. Yeah, no. And he took the pole to the backdrop of how close it was for everybody else by the margin of 0.3 of a second. It was just a phenomenal demonstration by Max yet again of how at one he is with his car, how good he is as a racing driver anyway, and how good Red Bull are getting the best from the RB20 even this early in the season. Max did 2 runs in Q3. Both of them would have put him on the pole. The second run wasn't quite as quick, but he was quickest in all 3 sectors, and he ended up quickest through the speed trap as well. So pole position, Max Verstappen tomorrow. Yeah, anything can happen. As he said, it's that sort of circuit, 3 DRS zones, quite a lot can happen. But nonetheless, a pretty good start.
Anything can happen. Haas can win. No. Okay, anything can't happen. Anything cannot happen.
You could say by Max and Red Bull. Charles Leclerc worked very hard, particularly turn 22 seemed to be a preoccupation of Charles for most of FP3 and going into qualifying as well. That's the very quick change of direction towards the end of the lap as they're beginning that long last run down to the hairpin where the road just curves to the left. He was working very hard on that, speed in, speed out, trying to work out what everybody else was doing, but eventually got it right. Really good lap by Charles Leclerc, who of course woke, as we all did this morning, to the news that Carlos Sainz has contracted, or had contracted appendicitis. So really good job yesterday, bearing in mind how quick he was, that he did that with appendicitis. They've operated on him already. The operation went well. But Ferrari, no loss of time in drafting in Oliver Behrman to replace Carlos, hopefully just for this one race. From Carlos's point of view, from Oliver's point of view, obviously for more.
For the whole season.
But Oliver has done a lot of testing for Ferrari, not in the new car. He was really quick in Barcelona. I did Mentioned that in one of the live streams at the beginning of this year. Really, really quick. Back-to-backing with Charles Leclerc in the 2022 car. And of course, he has done some running as well for Haas Ferrari. So it wasn't a massive jump for him. But bear in mind, he'd just taken the pole for the F2 race and had to walk away from that into the Formula One Ferrari, a car he'd never driven before. Did an outstanding job, I thought. Qualified 11th, just failed to make it into Q3. Hit the wall lightly a couple of times, as you would, but wow, what a job. This guy is seriously talented.
And he will also qualify
too. Him, that is for sure. It's a bit of a shame, really, from his point of view when he looks into the future at Ferrari, because there's a lock-in now with Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. So no real opportunity for him in the short term to be racing for Ferrari. So it's going to be, I guess, Haas Ferrari for him, and yeah, that's okay. You know, he'll be racing. He knows on the back of this performance, he knows that that drive is going to be paid for and guaranteed, I would imagine. So really good performance by Oliver Behrman, right in the middle of the pack. Not the greatest of places to be, I suppose, going into the first corner in Saudi Arabia, but well, we'll see. He's a racer too. I mean, we saw that in F2, and I thought it was quite well. I will get onto that towards the end of the video, because there was a couple of nice little cameos where, being a rookie at Ferrari in his first Grand Prix, there were a few elementary things that he had to go through, like all the pit stop routine, presumably slightly different from anything he'd learnt before. And it was quite interesting, some of the radio stuff that came up there. We'll get onto that in a minute. Charles Leclerc, as I say, P2 for Ferrari. In the end, he was 3:30 in a straight line through the trap. Max Verstappen 3:33. You can see the qualifying speed trap times here, or speeds here. So yeah, I mean, that'll be one area, a little bit speed through the air where Ferrari didn't get it right. But Ferrari can say yet again that they are best of the rest, and they have possibly they could say maybe we've reduced that gap to Red Bull. We keep going on about that gap to Red Bull. Maybe they haven't. I mean, but you know, 3/10 is 3/10. It's not the end of the world, but it's not the pole for Charles Leclerc. And Sergio Perez, as I say, still continues to look very good, very organised all weekend so far. Not on the front row, starting right behind Max on the clean side of the grid. So that's not a bad place for him to be. Sergio was 3:32 in a straight line. Max, remember, 3:33. So a little bit ahead of the Ferraris in terms of top speed. Fernando, really, really good yesterday. And today he qualified fourth, 27.8. which is the same time that Sergio Perez did. So an Aston Martin almost on the limit is as quick as a Red Bull that's not driven by Max Verstappen. I think that's the way to look at it. But it's quicker than both McLarens and both Mercedes around Saudi Arabia. So that's pretty good for Aston Martin, isn't it? Pretty good indeed. Bear in mind, as I keep saying, I don't think Fernando is the world's greatest qualifier in the history of the sport. I'm not taking anything away from him. He's really, really quick, but he's at his best on race day, I think, definitely. And so, yeah, I think great job by Aston, beaten only by Charles Leclerc by the margin. Great job by Aston, beaten only by Charles Leclerc's Ferrari in terms of the others by a very, very small margin. So a lot more to come from there, you would imagine. Lewis Hamilton, another fraught day for Lewis. He just said at the end, "I'm sorry, guys, I just couldn't feel the car beneath me today." And put that in the context of the bullish, optimistic talk we've had from Mercedes, basically since this new car hit the ground. And it's a bit of a setback, is it not? And George Russell did about the same time, as you can see there, as Lewis. And so you got to say at the moment, not as good a car as the Aston Martin, probably not as good a car as the McLaren. Quite clearly not around Saudi Arabia. So that is a big worry for Mercedes. I said yesterday how relatively quick they were in a straight line compared with where they were in Bahrain. Presumably that has been at the expense of downforce, and that has meant that a lot of the feel has gone away from the car, and when they do have to take downforce off, and that's not the last time they're going to have to do that this year, both drivers seem to be struggling, particularly on medium and high speed corners, and that's not a good thing at all. So it comes under the heading of efficient downforce. Red Bull can take downforce out of the car and basically still keep a balance and give the drivers drivability and feel and predictability. Mercedes take downforce out of the car and they lose that. McLaren, by contrast, and I wonder whether this is something Mercedes may be looking at in future, McLaren lived with a relatively slow top speed today. They didn't seem to make any changes in terms of downforce and reducing drag going into qualifying. See there, Oscar Piastri 3.26 and Lando Norris 3.27. Right at the back in terms of the top 10 runners, in terms of top speed, but a really good car for getting around the lap and looked pretty drivable. Gotta say again, Oscar Piastri just superb. I'm not surprised that he fractionally out-qualified Lando Norris. He's that good, and I think there was a little bit of a feeling over the winter when Lando announced he'd re-signed for McLaren, long-term contract, and Bahrain wasn't exactly a bad weekend for Lando. But coming here again, just seeing how good Oscar Piastri is, I think a lot of people may be thinking, you know, it is going to be a tough year for Lando in terms of upstaging this guy that he should be upstaging as the sort of number one McLaren driver, and this young Australian in his second year in the other car. But he's really, really quick, and he's really, really good too. I mean, he's a short corner driver with no doubt. No doubt about that at all. Just you can see it. There's some great overhead shots going into the last corner. And although it's a slow corner, it is an important corner because there's that straight exit, obviously, and it's a long straight afterwards. And it's also increasing radius, and they're braking as they're turning. And you can see there, Leclerc, Max, Oscar Piastri, Lewis not as much as he used to, not looking quite as good there as normal, but those three particularly really, really good in terms of just getting in a little bit earlier and getting a rotation at exactly the right moment. Just fabulous to watch. And but just to reiterate, McLaren living with that relatively slow top speed and getting the best out of the two cars. I mean, it's not a bad philosophy to have. Just give the drivers cars that they can really
it's so beautiful seeing McLaren better than Mercedes.
Feel confident in and chuck around, if that's
Maybe
the right
Aston
word.
Martin.
Yeah, George Russell and Lewis Hamilton thereafter. Yuki Tsunoda did a very good job. At the risk of repeating myself yet again, I've been saying that this battle between Yuki and Daniel Ricciardo, I think all year is going to be fascinating. And again, Yuki Tsunoda out-qualifying Daniel Ricciardo. A really good job by Yuki, and judging by his radio messages, you know, it almost felt like the pole for him. So really good job there. Lance Stroll in the other Aston Martin, incredibly quick in Q2. He was in fact second to Max Verstappen, but he couldn't reproduce that in Q3. A little bit of the story we've had from Aston, and to some extent Lance Stroll over the last couple of years, but the back went away, lost the feel for the rear on those new tyres. And not the only driver to complain about the odd feeling of the new tyres. Charles Leclerc also said that scrubbed tyres felt a little bit better to him than the new tyre. Obviously there was more time in the new tyre, but the scrubbed tyre certainly felt more comfortable to drive. He used the word, it was just a very strange feel when he was on the new tyre. And indeed, halfway through Q3, Charles was asking the team, the Ferrari team, what tyres Max was on. Obviously, his brain was thinking maybe a scrub set is the way to go in terms of balance, but they didn't. Everybody went for the new set in the last run. Lando, I should point out, didn't have a new set in his first run in Q3, but ultimately, it's still all about how you use the tyres, how many sets you go through to get to where you are in Q3. And it was Oscar that did the job. So just going a little bit further down there, as I say, Oliver Behrman, really, really good job in the Ferrari, I think, to be just outside that top 10. Alex Albon, the Williams doesn't appear to have massive grip. It's still quick in a straight line, but sliding quite a lot. Albon driving beautifully, lovely soft touch he's got, but not a massive amount of grip. Kevin Magnussen, yeah, good job. I mean, Kevin was really good in FP3 this morning in the other Haas Ferrari driver. Nico Hülkenberg also really quick. Both of them very good in a straight line, quickest in a straight line indeed, 3.34 around that area. But with both Haas Ferrari drivers having made it through into Q2, Nico Hülkenberg brought out the red very early in the Q2 session when he stopped out on the circuit with some sort of power unit drama. Well, he stopped. He said something like loss of power, so I'm assuming it was power unit. So that was unfortunate for them because they'd looked really good. But nonetheless, Kevin Magnussen and Nico Hülkenberg look in reasonable shape for the race tomorrow. A very disappointing day for the Sauber team. The good news is that Audi have now announced that they are buying 100% of Sauber. As I said in a live stream a few weeks ago, there's a
100% of Sauber. Audi will come in and probably take up Carlos Sainz driver work.
little bit of doubt because they're a little bit late on their next payment, but now they've just bought 100% a Sauber. And Andres Seidel has been named, of course, as the new team principal of the Audi Formula One operation. So congrats to him. No surprise there. But a bad day for Sauber because Valtteri Bottas just failed to make it through into Q2. Had a lot of traffic on his last run.
The Sauber,
Guanyu had a big shunt in the high-speed SS in
F1 team
FP3
kicked Sauber
this morning. Brought out the red flags. Badly damaged the Sauber, got out for 1 or 2 laps at the end of Q1, but there wasn't anything like enough time for him to go out and do anything serious in the car. It was just to get the car mobile. I mentioned that Oliver Behrmann was having to go through a little bit of a very rapid education system of how to drive this Ferrari in a Grand Prix weekend, and these were some of the radio messages he was given, mainly to do with the pit stops. Watch the board on the far left, watch the board on the brakes, focus on the light in case we're going to release it just for practice. K2 engine off, good job. So yeah, interesting that Ferrari would just sort of release him without telling, just to sort of, as I say, for practice. Quite good attention to detail, I think. And here's another one, pit confirmation box. You can attack the pit entry. I thought that was quite nice too, to hear that, because you would think with a young rookie, you'd say, oh, take it easy, remember the speed limit. But there he is, attack the pit lane entry. I thought that was a nice one. It was really impressive to watch Ollie in FP3 because they put him out initially on medium tyres and he did a really good job on those. He was within a couple of tenths of what everybody else was kind of doing at the time. Then they put a bit of fuel in the car just to get him a feel for that. And then right at the end, they took out the fuel and gave him a set of red tyres. And he did a good job on those as well. As I say, clanged a few walls, but nothing serious at all, just what you would expect a rookie to do. It's nice to see that. And it's nice to see a driver just jumping from F2 into F1 like that and doing a good job. All credit to Ferrari and the work they've done with him, obviously, in the build-up to this.
Oscar Piastri.
But what a day for Oliver Behrmann. I'm just trying to imagine what it must be like to have won the pole in the Formula 2 race and then to get the phone call saying you're racing Carlos Sainz's Ferrari on Saturday night. Get into the garage straight away. Wow, what a thing. Of course, in doing that, at the age of 18 years and 10 months, he becomes the youngest driver ever to race a Ferrari, breaking, I think it's worth remembering this, breaking a 62-year-old record set by Ricardo Rodriguez, Pedro Rodriguez's younger brother, in 1961. That stood for a long time. I think the Mexicans have always thought that was a pretty cool thing, but now it's finally been broken by Oliver Behrmann. They're just getting younger and younger, given the way karting is going. I know they have regulations now about age, but there was some unfortunate graphics coming up talking about Fernando Alonso scoring points and winning races before Oliver Behrmann was even born. Yeah, we don't need to see that sort of stuff on the screen, I think.
Why not?
Certainly Fernando probably doesn't. So there we are. We're going into the race tomorrow with Max on the pole, Charles Leclerc alongside him, as in Bahrain. And as I said in Bahrain, that opening lap without DRS is going to be really interesting. I mean, Max has got the slight advantage there in terms of top speed, and that is something he'll be counting on that opening lap for sure, if he makes a great start and gets the lead into the first corner. So we'll watch. Will it be a repeat of Bahrain from Max's point of view? It could well be. Charles Leclerc, of course, now looking forward to having a race where he doesn't have anything like the same number of glitches that he had in Bahrain.
Hopefully.
And at the moment, all signs are that Ferrari seem to have got a pretty good, reliable, well-balanced car, and they seem to be on top of that brake issue. So we'll see then. Fernando Alonso will not be going away either. And Sergio Perez looking very organised and under control this weekend too. So it'll be an interesting race. Let's see what happens. See you then.
I'm dancing to the sun.
Like this music.
I don't care what's in my cup. Tonight I'm doing what I want. What I want. I'm sorry I'm not heading home. I feel so good on my own. We'll take a pic and video on my phone.
Man, then like, come on, Peter, sir. This is. I mean, 18 seconds of just black screen. And then we have our last clip before this will be over. Quiet. And it will be our Kim Illman Let's see what you have to say.
G'day, what an amazing day for Oliver
G'day,
Bearman.
mate.
Thought he was going to be racing F2. Ends up qualifying for Formula 1 in a Ferrari.
And almost beating Lewis Hamilton. Hi!
Let me run through the timeline today. I was out shooting the F1 Academy girls who were on the other side of the track, and I get this message on my phone from Michael Potts, a fellow photographer. Carlos Sainz is out, appendicitis. So I immediately go to the Ferrari Instagram page. Yes, it's confirmed he will not be driving. So I race back to the paddock. I head straight back to the Ferrari hospitality suite, and I, along with a whole host of photographers, are standing there waiting for young Ollie to come out. We weren't 100% sure that he was actually in there though. 35 minutes later, Oliver appeared, ended up going and having a chat with Jock Clear. Now Jock is the senior Ferrari driving coach. He's worked with both Carlos and Charles. They chatted for a number of minutes and then he headed across to the garage. Luckily, he headed straight towards me, resulting in some nice images. So I went round to the garage to see what was happening out there. Big media contingent, obviously interested in what he was doing. Turns out he was doing his 7-second extraction test. What is that? Well, every driver must be able to prove to the FIA that they can get out of their car and replace their steering wheel in 7 seconds. How was this timed? Simply on an iPhone. After that he was weighed along with his helmet and hands device, and then he was given the thumbs up by the FIA that he could actually take part in FP3. Now the signage above the garage was still reading Carlos Sainz 55. The 55 on this little counter was still the same, but they had Carlos's name off the car and Oliver's on within probably 10 minutes of the announcement being made. By the time FP3 came about, they'd changed.
So easily they can replace him. Man, maybe in the end Lewis Hamilton's 44 and his name will be on Carlos Sainz's car and garage.
Changed the numbers on the car, and there were a number of different numbers to change, and above the car they changed the 55 to 38. And why didn't he use the number he races for in F2? Because that's number 3, taken by Daniel Ricciardo. There were regular fan zone appearances that each team has to do, but today it fell just before FP3, and obviously Ollie had special exemption not to go, so only Charles went out to that commitment. Now for those wondering, what about his race suit, his boots, his underwear and that sort of thing, all custom done? Well, that goes from race to race in a bag for every reserve driver, and of course hardly ever used. But of course in instances like this, it's invaluable that this is all done ahead of time. Before I get to his performance in FP3,
they're already ready to replace Carlos Sainz.
Talk quickly about what he has done in his past racing career. Yes, at the moment he's racing with Prema in Formula 2 alongside teammate and Mercedes prospect Kimi Antonelli. He finished 6th last year in the F2 Championship and currently is 19th of 22 after the first race this year. And unfortunately for him, missing this race is going to do him some harm in his attempt to win that F2 Championship this year. But when you step into a Formula 1 car and quali and a race, I think you have to put that behind you. He was the second car to head out in FP3. He got about 40 minutes of running, and then Zhou Guanyu had a big crash. And that saw the track closed, red flagged for, I'm guessing, about 10 minutes. And then he went out. At that stage, I think I looked and he was...
Oh. The delay of the qualifying, I think, happened because they were fixing the crash site. So when they let the drivers out, you could say it was not safe for them to actually drive there. So it seems like you can skip the safety if you want to, maybe.
Probably 17th in the timing sheets, but in those last 10 minutes he put in a run that saw him finish 10th, which I thought was a fair effort given he stepped in at the last minute. I can tell you his father's here, David. I had a chat with him tonight, lovely fellow, and he told me they only got the word about an hour before we found out. And of course he had plenty to do in that time. Mum's not here, and his brother, who's 14, is racing go-karts today, and I think it was in Campanos. So Dad's a bit conflicted. He's got a son racing for his first quali session in F1, and he's got another son racing in Campanos. And Dad was the first person to greet Ollie when he came out of the garage after that practice session. I did have a chat to one of the guys from Hinsa and said, look, what's he going to feel like after this weekend? He said, well, there's a huge difference in power and braking levels between F1 and F2, so he's going to be sore probably in his neck. He's going to feel it, definitely. But typically these guys are so well trained that it's not going to be debilitating, whilst it might be annoying. About 25 minutes before the start of qualifying, I went out and waited for Oliver to enter the garage, and he came off that deck bouncing and headed to the garage, and then I went around the front, and I couldn't believe it that they'd done the signage above his garage with, yes, his picture and his name and the name in Arabic font. And then it was out on track for the young Brit. He survived Q3, but unfortunately was bumped out in Q2, but finished 11th. An amazing effort considering he had such little time in the car. I waited for him outside of the FIA garage. He came out, he was bubbly, he did the media pen, and then he did some Sky Sports interviews before catching up with his father, who gave him a well-earned hug. He then made his way back to the hospitality suite, where he was greeted with great enthusiasm by his own crew. Was he nervous? Well, he said that he didn't have time to get nervous. But no one can argue about his performance. It was admirable considering the precious little time he spent actually in the car prior. One man who could be unhappy, but perhaps won't even care, is Lewis Hamilton, because he could well have been the first British driver to race for Ferrari in some 25 years. He's lost that chance, though, because it looks like Oliver Bearman will be that first British driver in 25 years. And who was the last Brit? It was Eddie Irvine, and just before that, Nigel Mansell. Here's some other stats that might interest you. He's the first driver to make his F1 debut for Ferrari since Arturo Mazzario in 1972. Oliver won the F4 series in both Italy and Germany in 2021. The same year he joined Ferrari Driver Academy at the age of just 16. In October last year, he drove an F1 car for the first time at a private test at Fiorano with Ferrari. He stepped into the Haas of Kevin Magnussen in Mexico last year, and there were actually 4 other young rookie drivers in that test, and he topped all of their times. He's the youngest British person to drive an F1 car. His boyhood hero is Jenson Button, and tonight I imagine he'll find it very tricky to get a good night's sleep. Now on the Carlos front, he's got appendicitis, and he's going to, as I understand it, have to have that operated on here because you can't fly if you've got appendicitis. I did think he looked rather uncomfortable yesterday when he arrived at the track late. Of course, it's sad for Carlos. He has things to prove, but it is an unequalled opportunity for Oliver. Now, there's only one thing I'll ask of you. Could you please subscribe? About half of you have not. If you have subscribed, and if you haven't subscribed, how about hitting the like button for me too? And for a whole host of extra content, have a look there. There's plenty to discover. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate.
We'll see about that.
What else can I tell you? Thank you, Mark.
My pleasure, Ken.
I don't know whether... Yeah, there's Mark Sutton. Crazy Mark Sutton.
Oh shit. Okay, that was the last clip. So stop it here. Okay, so how will the race end? Let's see if we go back to Formula 3. Here we have it. If we go back to this, Max will probably win. Sergio Perez probably P2, then Charles Leclerc P3. Fernando Alonso can maybe be P4. Hopefully McLaren will stay where they are, because I really want to see them be better than Mercedes. I mean, Oliver Bearman should be able to get some points. Maybe not, but hopefully he will. And hopefully he will at least be better than Yuki Tsunoda and Stroll. And it will be funny if he could also be better than George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. Probably not, but who knows? The Mercedes is maybe so bad that he can. So, but we will see that in 14 or 15 hours.